Jacob, good afternoon. Welcome.
How's it going?
Not too bad. If you noticed, got my Michigan shirt on.
Let's go.
Maize and blue, trying to support our guests, have some familiarity for them. And then I thought it'd be a cool thing to do for the audience. Did it in the first episode with Darcy and Bayern Munich. So let's see how long I can keep this rolling. So before we get into the structure for today, to give the audience a sense of what we'll talk about, first wanted to share the ideal outcome so they get a sense of what we want them to take away from it. And so in this episode, we want to educate and inspire the younger athletes, I think especially tennis players, given your background that we'll get into, on what it takes to succeed at a top college program, and then take a look at it from like a data or an even intangibles perspective, right? And so intangibles is some qualitative data from that perspective, and then perhaps touching on why sport, in this case tennis, like can always remain in your life, even if you're not going pro, to give people a sense of the various paths that could be taken, and then specifically the path you took, which I think is a really cool one, and I'll explain why too when we get into some of your background. So before we go back to like your time at Michigan and even before that in high school, like what are you up to these days?
So yeah, I'm currently getting my MBA at Oakland University. I have 6 months left of school, and I'm currently looking for sales jobs right now. That's the field I want to get into. Is most likely start in a software sales type of role, and then go from there.
And so why sales? There's a lot of failure that happens in the process of sales. There must be some connection to tennis in terms of
Yeah,
what you do.
I mean, I lost a lot in tennis too, so it's pretty similar. I also like the upside that sales brings. I feel like you learn a business really well, and it's very similar to sports: wins, losses, ups, downs, trying to recruit, trying to earn business. Just it's a grinding role, which is kind of why I like it.
The last thing you said really stands out to me in terms of it's grinding, and we don't have to like go into names, but I spoke with one of your former assistants on an unrelated topic the other day, who was on the pro tour, and he had that reference when it comes to tennis, in that sometimes during the tour you're at these like seemingly random tournaments in random places just trying to grind it out, and you might not even win, but it's what you take away from those matches or even from the experience with that opponent for the next time, right? As long as you can retain that information in terms of like the data, that can help you. And I think sales is kind of similar, at least from my experience.
For sure.
Okay, great. So we've started in terms of where you're at today. Let's go back, I think, a little bit to the beginning in terms of your background. Like, talk us through your experience with tennis in high school, like prior to getting recruited, because we'll come into that next. Like, what was it like from the training perspective and match perspective? Is there a lot of data being measured, or like how did it work from that perspective in your experience?
In high school, no, I didn't have anything measured. I was just kind of playing. So I grew up playing right around me, literally 300 yards away from my house. And I played there from seventh grade all the way till college. And I was playing with kids a lot worse than me. Like, I didn't play with anyone my whole career better than me. So I actually think that gave me an advantage because it made me develop my offensive skills a little more because I was controlling the points because I was playing worse players, and I was developing my game so I could play at a high level. It's partly the reason why I think I got as good as I am now because I was playing worse players. A lot of people think you need to play better players to get better, which is, in my opinion, just not the case at all. But for like physical training, I did not take that seriously at all in high school. I would just kind of just go out and play. I mean, when you're in high school, it's not as important because the kids aren't as developed yet. So it's not like you're playing guys that can just are so physically dominant. I mean, you have guys that are taller and stronger, but it's not like it's that prevalent until you get to college. So, I mean, I would do like some running and a little bit of weight training on my own, but nothing really concrete.
Did you happen to play any other sports growing up or in high school, or were you
And
pure
I played
tennis?
golf. I played golf a lot too. That's pretty much my main sport now.
No, yeah, no. But growing up, you had the two, and I think there's a lesson there for the parents as well in terms of like, I mean, every sport is different. Everyone's point of view is different. Like, it's about refining your craft and probably just having fun too, and learning about the process and experience. Like you said, now with you finishing your MBA and wanting to go into sales, there's a like team component as well. Whereas you have people who are on your team, they might be doing the same thing as you, so not necessarily working directly with you. There's some competitiveness that like you all want to succeed, and that ends up building up over the course of your career. Again, pretty analogous. So then let's talk about. I want to make sure I have this right, and if I misrepresent this, then please correct me. But you were a 5-star recruit and one of like the top 5 or top 10 recruits in high school going to
Yes.
college.
How I was a blue chip recruit, so top 25 is a blue chip. When I was getting recruited, I was actually only a 5-star, but I made it to a blue chip like later in my junior year. Um, yeah, if you're top 25 in the country, you can go to, I would say, 95% of the schools if you're not like the worst student ever, or the coaches see you like act terrible on court and they just get turned off by that. Other than that, if you're a nice kid and you come from like a decent family, I would say you have a pretty good shot at most places.
So we'll come back to that like intangible that you mentioned in terms of like your attitude and demeanor on the court, and then even like off the court, like you mentioned, like how you are in terms of with your family and what have you. So you mentioned in high school and before that, basically just out there you're playing tennis, right? You're hitting balls. What was the biggest jump from high school to Michigan from the like air quotes program perspective? Like, was it weightlifting? Was it nutrition? Was it conditioning? Is there anything that jumps out for you based on your experience?
Weightlifting and conditioning. The tennis wasn't too bad because I played 5 hours of tennis growing up consistently. So I would say the tennis there was more difficult just because of the added weight training and the conditioning. So the tennis did feel harder, but I actually don't think like the actual stuff we did in the tennis was harder. I think it was the conditioning and weights that we did every day that just destroyed your legs. That's what made it hard.
Yeah, I hear that from other athletes when they make a jump. It could be, I mean, in this case, it's high school to college for tennis. Some it's college to the pros or what have you, right? There's some aspect to it where it's just like, oh, I was not expecting that. Oh, would you agree, or what are your thoughts on like this reaction to it? Is that just part of the process where like you have to go through these different stages and you have to go through those pains and some failure and grind to really to push to the next level to become elite?
I mean, I would like to say yes because most people probably go through a tough time in their tennis. Some people are just up their whole career, but I would say that's not the most common path for sure. There's definitely some ups and downs because even if you get to a high level, like you can get injured, you can start playing poorly. I mean, injury is huge because if you get injured for 3 to 6 months, it's not as easy as to come back as people think, especially in an individual sport because you don't have teammates that can pick you up. So you really have to get your level like up, and then your confidence goes down. Like that's why tennis is so difficult to kind of get super good at because it's just you. There's no one else that can help you up or make you look good or throw a ball to you and one pass and you're make one shot. Like it's just you that wins, nobody else.
And the preparation to that also, I would imagine, because we kind of talked about this before, and I've talked to others. Again, every school is different, every organization is different. There's the staff around you, around the team that helps. It could be nutrition, it could be strength and conditioning, it could be mental coaches, etc. They're there to guide you, right? And it's still, is that what you're saying? That even if they're there and they're doing what they can, it's still on you, the athlete,
Yeah.
to do what you need to do.
I mean, they can only tell you so much. It's not like in tennis, like, like you can tank, not try for the point. Like you can make bad decisions mentally, just check out and just miss balls for no reason. In weights, you can lift not that heavy and do one less rep and not give it your all. Mentally, working with a mental coach, you can check out. Working with a nutritionist, you can eat bad. She doesn't know everything you're eating or like drinking. Like it's still all on, like, it's the same in anything. Like it's still on you to do what you need to do. They're just there to help you. But I would say still a lot of accountability on yourself because they're not babies in college. They're not sitting around and watching you. So it's a lot of self accountability for sure.
And in some instances, like the team might not even have like its own dedicated staff, right? That staff might have to help a few teams. And so even more so, it's on you, I'd imagine, to deliver on those plans and execute.
For sure.
In terms of we'll come back again to the intangible part of it. You've touched on it a bunch. From like a stats perspective, right? There's a lot of stats, which is just data in sports. I'm not a tennis pro, so I'm not going to pretend to rattle them off other than when, first serve, I guess aces, like percentage of aces, enforced errors, etc. Like again, we're coming at this from your own experience. How much? Let's start with high school. How much in high school did the stats matter in terms of like within the match, or did you look at it from the bigger picture of like I'm on the trajectory of improving and getting better, and that's what's important? Can you like talk us through your mindset?
Yeah, I mean, I think statistically, I was not like the stats within the match, like errors, winners, that kind of stuff. I never looked at that until college at all. Like I was just pretty much with the mentality of competing as hard as I can, and I will make one more shot than you. That's pretty much my mentality. I wouldn't say I was the most talented player. I was just tougher than a lot of people. A lot of people would give up in the rallies, not give it, like, especially when it's hot. It's really hard to keep going sometimes, and mentally, you know that pain is temporary. So that's kind of what I told myself. It's not going to last forever, and you'd rather walk out winning than losing. So I would say, yeah, I didn't look at anything statistically until I got to college, and then I was starting to really like, why'd you hit this shot here? Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? Like before college, I was kind of just playing just for the love of the game, and then when I got to school, it was way more in depth with everything.
And is there a lot of like analysis within the team of like these match, I guess, occurrences or events in terms of like unforced errors, et cetera? Or is it more like
Yeah, I think it's different with I had different experiences with different coaches, kind of they both did their own thing, but I would say they both kind of have had ways to measure success in a match, but we definitely both looked at data in for everything, either watching film or dissecting. We had this cool thing called tennis analytics my first 3 years, and it kind of showed you like what points you won and kind of how you did that. And that was pretty cool to kind of dissect like, oh, I won all these points at the net when I don't think I'm very good at the net. And oh,
interesting?
I hit the shot here, like that worked a lot against this player. Like stuff like that was really cool. And then we got pre-match scouting too. So like the coaches would watch the previous players play other matches, and then we'd have a game plan of what to do going into that. Like in high school, I never did that. You can't pull up a match from someone playing some random junior tournament. So it's not nearly as advanced to that level as college.
Maybe not today, though. In some of these like advances with computer vision and AI, and some things I've seen in other sports where they're like videoing everything and then analyzing that could be the future. Though I think that brings us to a very interesting point from like a quantitative to qualitative data perspective compared to intangibles. And let's just use that example that you just shared where you had the tennis analytics. You thought you weren't good at the net, but the data said otherwise. So how does that like affect the mindset of an athlete like you? Does it help you think or gain confidence in like, hey, the data's there, I can do this. So it's like, what's the weight of the mental perspective and your mindset versus what the stats are showing in terms of outcomes, and like how do you deal with that?
I mean, I think you got to take it with a grain of salt because it's still a program. It's not a player. So I think like I looked at it a lot, but like still like there's different things within the game. Like this player is terrible on passing shots. Like he just can't hit a passing shot. Like that's where sometimes the data can be more inflated than it should be.
So actually, there's a future episode that I'm doing with somebody where they kind of talk about this, and it has to do with hockey in Poland. And it's comparing hockey players across leagues, like in Europe. Like there's not as much data there, or
How you'd compare that because like it's so tough because there's so many other players passing the puck around. Like it's just you're at the right place at the right time.
and then it's just the context too of like if you don't have the video evidence, right, and somebody just goes by box scores and stats, somebody could again have inflated stats and you're like, oh, this player is a comp to this player, when in reality is it's like it's not the same game. So it goes to this point of like, and you brought this up, is like the context matters, like you said,
Sure.
like a program versus the player and what's actually happening.
100%.
So it seems like there's a balance from your perspective, and like the team in Michigan, I'm like, use the data, but still go out and play. And then I imagine, and I'm not going to speak for you, so I'd like you to speak to this. It's also like you have to have like a feel of the match and how it's going and how you might have to adjust. Is that right? Or am I off?
I mean, tennis, you have to make adjustments because if you do the same thing at the high level and it's not working, you're just going to get beaten down.
I saw something where, and this is maybe kind of related, but it's like the resilience part. And maybe you made some adjustments when this happened. Maybe you don't remember this because you've played so much tennis, but there was a contest or a match you had against Washington of 24, so before graduating. Like you rallied from being 40 down. How
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like how does that happen? Like somebody looks at the box score, right? And they're like, "Oh, other guy gave up."
Yeah,
Maybe that happened, but like
a
do
little
you
bit of
remember what happened in that instance?
a little bit of luck.
Okay, what's the answer?
Well, you're still serving, right? So you start the point statistically offensive on your serve. So I won the first 2 points and I was like, all right, now I'm down 40-30. Like I have a decent chance. And then I ended up getting lucky on the deuce point. I think I hit a let court winner. But I mean, he still has to beat you. So it's if you think about it, it's really you only have to win 4 points in a row. It's not like you got to win, go down the field 100 yards and score a touchdown. Like there's still so many things you can do to like affect the opponent and put pressure on him during that time, especially because if he goes to 30, 40, you win 2 points, even 2 points. You're like, he's like, oh, like if I don't win this game, like that's a total choke. So he's probably thinking in his head about it. Like, I don't know. I think mentally, a lot of players should be better if they were just better mentally.
I remember, I'm going to tie this to the intangibles that we've been kind of teasing out and make the connection, or try to, where in that instance you mentioned how like in your mind you have in some way the probabilities of what could happen if the next point goes a certain way, right? And then it ties into the mental in terms of confidence. And I mean, not don't know so much about tennis. I learned a lot from Andre Agassi's autobiography, Open. I remember pretty vividly where there's some tournaments he was in where he just says like he knew he lost before walking out on the court, or he mentally gave up midway through and it was just over. He just knew he didn't have it. That's kind of what you're speaking to.
That's definitely true for sure.
Are there examples for like you might have earlier in your career at some point, like given up mentally and then you learn from it to bounce back?
Yeah,
Or
I would say sometimes I put when I was younger, I'd put people on pedestals, like just because they're ranking, but like at the end of the day, they're still human. They could have a bad day. So that's why I think I made the switch to that. I mean, there's only really one guy I've ever played that I was like, I can't beat this guy. And that was Andre Styler. He played at U of M,
okay.
final national championship. He was just like, that's when I kind of knew I was like, all right, I'm not really good enough to like play because like this guy is not didn't play pro tennis, final national championships, and he's I probably would lose 10 out of 10 times. Like I wouldn't I don't know how I would not be able to beat him. If I played my best tennis, I probably wouldn't beat him. Like I would not.
So that is a good segue into like the second to last like section in terms of like giving your advice and recommendations. Though, is that like what you just referenced, like the moment or the time where in your mind you're like, I'm not going to be a pro tennis player. I gotta do something else or figure out how to continue to.
No, I would say I always kind of wanted to play potentially, but again, you need a lot of money, someone sponsoring you. I didn't really want my parents to pay for all of that. It's a lot of travel by yourself. You have to kind of go alone to a lot of places, which I really didn't want to do. to only do it for a couple years and like quit, I just didn't see a great. I'd rather just do a new stage of life than to kind of just keep chasing tennis. And I think that if you kind of don't have a lot of money or you don't have a sponsor, it's pretty difficult to do if you're not top 100 in the world, which is also very, very hard to do. I mean, impossible even. And some players that, especially from northern states, I would have had to move probably to like Florida or somewhere warm to be playing outside all year round. Cause in pro tennis, there's no really indoor tournaments other than for like a month of the year. So I just, a combination of all those things, it wasn't for me.
I think that's okay. We each have our own paths. We each have our own journeys. That's one of the underlying intentions of these episodes is to show the audience like everyone has a path. There's a way to get somewhere from anywhere. Some of it depends on what you want. I mean, in reference the prior episode again with Darcy Norman, he grew up in Grand Prairie, Alberta. That is way up there above Calgary. He's in the staff of 3 World Cups, 2 with Germany, 1 with the US. He's now performance director at Chicago Fire. And it's just like, it's just another example. I mean, yours too, of like where who knows where you'll be. I mean, it'd be awesome to check in with you. I'll keep in touch with you, as we know. It'd be awesome to check in with you in the future to see like how the sales is going, how the business is going. Cause like you said, it's a stage in your life. So like, what advice then would you give to especially younger tennis players, and then particular in the US these days, that they can learn from your experience?
Yeah, I would say you kind of have to love tennis to be able to try professionally. Like I love tennis, but I don't love it that much. I love the competing more than anything. The competing with my teammates. I didn't love individual tennis. Like I also another reason like if you don't love going out there yourself and just kind of grinding and doing that on your own, I would say it's not for you. But if you do like that, then I would say it's more for you. But I enjoyed playing with a team more than anything. So I wasn't gonna have that on the pro tour. So it wasn't for me. But I would say if you love tennis and you love competing by yourself, then I would say why not give it a shot.
And not necessarily make that as the ultimate decision at, before high school or college. It's like there is a
I
big,
mean,
big jump. So
it's different for each person because if your family's worth millions, like you can obviously go play and do whatever you'd want. So
fair,
I would say
fair.
it's situational. Unless you're top 5 in college, I would say it's going to be very difficult for you.
I think it's a good like look into the future for a lot of young tennis players and families in the States, especially because that's what we're talking about is in the US about what it takes and what the potential is. So, I mean, part of that too is like, don't forget the other stuff along the way. Like they say, life is a journey. Like the reward is the journey, not necessarily the destination. It sounds like philosophical, though.
Yeah, I would say too, like definitely go to college, enjoy college. That's such a fun time
Yes,
in your life.
yes.
A lot of like some teammates, some like I would say didn't get as much out of that because they were kind of more focused on kind of tennis and stuff, but they weren't like amazing players either. So it's I don't know. I think it's finding a balance. Like you definitely want to enjoy school because it's so difficult to play professional tennis at that certain level and like these are friends you're going to have for a while. Like I would say my biggest advice is definitely go to college and enjoy it.
I just yesterday sat with a former teammate in juniors. We ended up going to college the same time. I haven't seen Matt in 20 years. He's now assistant hockey coach at Harvard men's ice hockey. And I told him, I was like, and I'll tell you and tell the audience. I told him, I was like, I couldn't sleep the night before. I was like pretty nervous. He's like, you were nervous to see me? I was like, I haven't seen you in 20 years. I was assuming you're the same person. We had kind of kept in touch via like Instagram DM and stuff, but not sitting there. And it was like we were in the same locker room 20 years ago. We sat there for 2 hours, and I had an experience a few weeks ago. Similarly, college teammate. He was a senior, I was a freshman, and we sat in Nashville. I went down to see a football match. Talked to him for 10 hours, and then I was just telling him some about advice he gave me in college. And I was like, I've held that with me as a positive. And it's sometimes you don't realize those things in the moment, like those lessons until later. And I'm sure that there's ones that you hold on to in terms of those experiences and lessons. And I'm sure there's some that haven't hit you yet, but they will. And I think that's fantastic advice to share with others is like, do all of it, like do everything because you never know, right? So I really appreciate you sharing that advice. I wanted to share my own experience because it just resonates so much with me. As you and I talked about before this, there's similar paths in terms of like our academic study, then getting an MBA, then starting in sales. So, and others, I think this will resonate with them. Okay. Thank you for that. We'll get into the last section, which is meant to have some fun. We started with you in terms of your background. A lot of this was talking about you and your experience. We're going to finish in this segment of behind the data. I meant to have some fun and have some fun answers in kind of a rapid fire way. So let's go through the four of them. Is there a place or like location that's like super close to you in terms of your heart, or it's like a special place? It could be your hometown. It could be like where you went
Yeah.
to school. It could be a place you visited. Like what is it for you?
Say my country club was a pretty good place. I mean, during the winter I'd go there for tennis. I'd work out there. In the summer when I would need a break from tennis, I would go play golf. And that was pretty relaxing. Eat a ton of family dinners there. So I would say that's a pretty important place in my life for sure.
That's awesome. It's a place you could do multiple things, not just for one. And that's okay because like we you said in other parts of this, everyone's different. Everyone has their own thing. So kind of like segueing into that, you mentioned you had a lot of family dinners there. What's like a comfort food for you, or something that's like your go-to, or even like a pre-match meal you would have? Like what is your thing that you'd want to share with people?
Pre-match meal, I'd probably do like some chicken and rice. I don't really like to play with like a ton of in my stomach. Like I
Yeah,
would
yeah, yeah.
sometimes not eat if it was a morning match. And then for comfort food, probably like cheeseburger and fries is probably a pretty good go-to.
From any specific place, just cheeseburger and
Any
fries. Yeah,
place is
just
good.
give me burger and fries. Yeah, I'm kind of like that with pizza. I think like I'm not so bothered. Where is it from? Give me a slice of pizza, and I'm good. Kind of similarly, this next one could be about pump up song before a match. It could be one now that just like gets you focused or in a mood, gives you the feels. Is there a specific song that is like a go to for a specific reason?
Probably a lot of the Eminem songs. I grew up listening to that because my mom really liked him. So any of the songs from Eminem early stage were good.
And we didn't cover this actually in the beginning, but like you're from the Detroit area.
20 minutes from Detroit. Yep.
So that, yeah, proximity matters. I think that is that's a good one for me in high school, and then in college he was big. There were songs that just got you going, whether it's the locker room or in your headphones or what have you. So that resonates with me too. And then last but not least, before I let you go, Jacob, is there a book that you've read lately, recently? It could be 1 year, it could be the past couple of years, that had an impact on you or taught you a lesson that you would want to share with
You already
others?
kind of mentioned it. I was going to say Open by Agassi. That was a great book. I really enjoyed reading his story. That's like one of the really few books that I made it all the way through like very quickly. Like
Same.
that was a really, really good book.
Same. And he opens it with like, I think it's like a flashback to where he ends the book. I mean, people know his story, so we're not giving any spoilers, where he's like having excruciating back pain before he's playing that US Open in New York. And the way he describes it, for myself, I was like, I feel that pain in my back. And like I've had some back pain. Maybe not to that extent, but like I know what he's kind of going through. Like he really gives you a sense of what tennis is about. And then Jacob, I believe from, at least from my perspective, you've given us a real look into your experience. I think a lot of people resonate too, in terms of they've had that, they're going through it, they will go through it. The aspects of like data plays a role in terms of the quantitative aspects or intangibles, right? A lot of it being mental, and that's super appreciated. So thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate it.
Yep. It was good. I enjoyed it. Hopefully I can help some people out.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Yep. See you, Michael.